It would appear that we are in the midst of the greatest paradigm shift our species has ever seen. For the past 70 years, the subject of UFOs has been the subject of ridicule, and those who sought answers were made fun of and called crazy. But now, many high-level government officials and US military fighter pilots are coming forward saying the phenomena is real, and UFOs are being presented in a serious manner on mainstream media like never before.
The U.S. Navy is preparing new guidelines for pilots on how to report sightings of UFOs.
New reports 5 pilots coming forward over the weekend saying they've had multiple mid-air encounters with high-flying, fast-moving objects.
Well, it's a bird, it's a plane, no one knows. Unidentified flying objects have been spotted by Navy pilots and nobody knows.
Tonight, CNN has learned the Pentagon had a secretive program to research UFOs like the one Fravor spotted.
It would appear that we are in the midst of a US government-controlled disclosure on this subject, something UFO researchers have wanted for decades. One of the sparks that led to this drastic change would come from one of the most unlikely places, Blink-182 frontman Tom DeLonge. Over the past few years, Tom DeLonge has accomplished something no one thought was possible. He has accumulated a diverse list of highly credible people from multiple military and government agencies to rationally discuss the UFO phenomena on mediums that will reach the American public and the world. With the help of his advisors, Tom has painted a grim and disturbing picture of what is behind the UFO phenomena and the reasonings behind years of secrecy on the part of world governments. This all sounds crazy, and it is. Tom DeLonge is either being used as a disinformation agent by these people, or this is the real deal UFO disclosure. So let's look at Tom DeLonge's UFO timeline of events and answer the following questions. How did he get interested in the subject? How did he get involved with these high-level officials? What does the future of this disclosure look like? What is the reasoning behind how governments treat the UFO subject? And what does Tom DeLonge say is behind the UFO phenomena, and what are their intentions? Let's find out and take a closer look at Tom DeLonge.
Man, I heard something about Tom, about aliens.
Tom's my good friend. He is pursuing his journey in finding UFOs and aliens.
So, shit, you want to get me started on UFOs?
But just that one story.
What do you hope happens after people see this?
This is not just a show to entertain. This is a mechanism to change the way the government acts. You're going to see us dealing with the Senate, us meeting with the intelligence services of other governments, and everyone is coming out of the woodwork and saying, this is real, we got to do something about it, and it very well could be a threat, but we can't put our head in the sand.
So you're obsessed with UFOs, right? Is that safe to say?
It's safe to say, but it's not so much just the UFO itself. I mean, I don't call them that anymore. We call these advanced aerial threats. They're different, but
threats.
You honed in on a word we weren't supposed to really get into here.
This video will be broken up into 2 parts. For the first part, we will go through the timeline of events that led Tom DeLonge to the point he is at today, and the apparent disclosure that is occurring. We will see how he got into the subject, who Tom's military and government advisors are, and how he accumulated them. Once we have established Tom's timeline of events, we will move into part 2 of this video. For part 2, we will piece together everything Tom has said regarding the UFO phenomena itself, and attempt to paint the grand overall picture of what these UFOs are and their intentions, all according to the information Tom has received through his military and government advisors. This second part is going to be very strange and disturbing, and if true, will challenge many of our perceptions of reality. All of this information will come from hours of interviews, countless articles, and mainstream media coverage. I hope that by presenting you the historical timeline of how Tom came to receive this information, and then presenting you with Tom's version of what the UFO phenomena is, you will feel adequately prepared to decide for yourself if this is a government disinformation operation, an actual paradigm-shifting UFO disclosure, or something in between. This is going to be weird. Let's begin. Tom DeLonge was born on December 13, 1975, in Poway, California. His father, Thomas DeLonge Sr., was an oil company executive, and his mother, Connie, a mortgage broker. His first musical instrument was a trumpet, which he received as a Christmas gift at age 11. It was during this time that Tom also began another passion of his, skateboarding. Tom DeLonge first began skateboarding in the 3rd grade, which would consume much of his activity outside of school. Tom says he lived, ate, and breathed skateboarding, and all he did all day long was skateboard. In high school, Tom was the homecoming king and was quite popular amongst his peers. However, he did not get good grades in his classes. It was during this time that he first began reading books on general conspiracy theories, which soon turned into a lifelong obsession with the UFO phenomena. Tom would create the band Blink-182 with Mark Hoppus and eventually settle with drummer Travis Barker. By the late 1990s, this punk band would become a global sensation and began performing around the world, catapulting Tom, Mark, and Travis into stardom. During this time, Tom would continue his passion for UFOs and read hundreds of books on the UFO phenomena while in the Blink-182 tour bus. He read books by Jacques Vallée, Stanton Friedman, John Keel, and countless others, and he would begin to formulate his own opinions on the UFO phenomena and why governments cover it up. He would begin to think that the UFO phenomena was a little stranger than the typical green visitors from another planet that was popular in pop culture. For most of the early 2000s and early 2010s, Tom would continue to pursue music with Blink-182 and his new band, Angels and Airwaves, with small breaks here and there to spend time with his growing family. Tom DeLonge would maintain a keen interest in the UFO phenomena, and in 2014, Tom would claim to have his first encounter with the phenomena, which would lead him to choose to pursue UFOs full-time. He would go camping in Death Valley near a government official test site with a prominent unnamed ufologist who, according to Tom, claimed that UFOs would communicate through consciousness and not radio signals or wireless technology. This ufologist would claim to be able to make UFOs appear through meditation. I personally suspect that the ufologist Tom is referring to is Stephen Greer. Stephen Greer is responsible for the Disclosure Project of the early 2000s that collected many testimonials from former military and government officials who claimed truth behind the UFO phenomena. Later in his career, Stephen Greer would controversially begin claiming meditation as a method to communicate with UFOs through consciousness, claims similar to the ones made by Tom's unnamed ufologist. Regardless of who this unnamed ufologist was, Tom claimed that they began to meditate around their campsite for hours. Nothing seemed to happen, and the group went to sleep. Tom then claims that he woke up in the early morning, around 2 to 3 a.m., to the sound of hundreds of voices outside the tent, but he could tell there was no one there to be making the noises. A few of the other people in his camp group could also hear the same strange, paranormal sound of a chorus of voices. This brush with high strangeness would help convince Tom to take a break from music and do whatever he could to help bring the reality of the phenomena to the public. In 2015, Tom DeLonge officially left Blink-182 to pursue UFOs. Tom thought about ways that he could promote the reality of UFOs to the public. He reflected on how when he saw the movie 13 Days about the Cuban Missile Crisis, he was suddenly more interested in that subject than he had ever been learning about it in school. After seeing the drama of the Cuban Missile Crisis unfold on film, he was inspired to do more research into the actual events that transpired. Tom DeLonge thought that the 13 Days method would be a great way to approach the UFO subject, which to him had never been accurately portrayed in cinema. He envisioned creating audience-engaging TV shows, movies, documentaries, and books that slowly disclosed the reality of the UFO phenomena to the public. Tom began drafting fiction and non-fiction books on the UFO phenomena. He began writing a fiction series with New York Times bestselling author A.J. Hartley and a non-fiction series with UFO researcher Peter Levenda, both titled Secret Machines. The fiction series portrays the UFO phenomena through the point of view of characters connected to the military, the UFO conspiracy scene, and big business financing projects to combat the phenomena. The non-fiction series attempts to show how the UFO phenomena is connected throughout multiple points in human history and development. Though he was working hard, Tom felt that if his grand disclosure goal was to be successful, he would need cooperation from the government and advisors with knowledge of the UFO phenomena. So Tom set out on his journey to collect advisors from some of the highest echelons of government and military. Tom has relayed the following timeline of events on various interviews using vague language to describe the people he is referring to. Based on the information that came out later, I will state who and what I suspect Tom is referring to. Tom claims that due to his celebrity, he was invited to introduce the lead aerospace executive at an open house for families of a top defense aerospace contracting company. I suspect that he is referring to Lockheed Martin, and more specifically their Special Departments Division, Skunk Works. Lockheed Martin is responsible for a number of aircraft designs, including the U-2 bomber, the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, which holds the fastest record of any plane created by man, the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk, the Lockheed Martin F-22 Raptor, and the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II. Experimental aircraft developed by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works are often tested and developed at the infamous Area 51 and Groom Lake sites. When Tom was invited, he knew exactly who this group of people was, so he agreed to introduce the lead executive on one condition: that after introducing the lead aerospace executive, he would be able to get 5 minutes alone with him to discuss matters of his choosing. This was arranged, and when Tom met with the executive, he pitched his idea. He was sure not to use the term UFO in their initial meeting, but instead referred to his project as one that would help the youth lose their cynical view of the military and defense contractors. The executive set up a follow-up meeting to discuss the matters further, and they returned to the family open house. The second meeting was more intense than the first. Tom claims that this meeting was behind 4 layers of security: armed guards, an electronic code entry system, hallways filled with white noise, and in a room with no windows. This time, Tom's meeting was with the lead aerospace executive and 2 other aerospace executives. At first, he continued with his pitch of creating audience-engaging TV shows, movies, documentaries, and books, but now the goal was to help people lose their cynicism of military and defense contractors. As they were talking, one of the other executives asked Tom, "So what do you plan to do with all this conspiracy stuff that you're into?" Tom was shocked, and he tried to dodge the question, but the conversation led to UFOs. The lead executive said, "We cannot be involved in any type of project whatsoever that has this topic associated with it, specifically because there's never been any evidence whatsoever that this stuff even exists." The only thing Tom could think of saying was, "If Edgar Allan Mitchell, the 6th man to walk on the moon, is out telling every kid in the world that this topic is real, then we have a problem." Tom then asked to speak to the lead aerospace executive alone, and Tom continued to pitch his idea of UFO disclosure that highlighted the good work that the government and military was doing regarding the issue. The lead executive listened, and eventually revealed that yes, UFOs are real, and that Tom's plan of a slow disclosure on the issue could actually work in revealing the reality of the UFO phenomena to the world. The lead aerospace executive then connected Tom with someone who he called the General to discuss Tom's idea. After much email communication occurred between them, Tom and the General met at a restaurant in a random airport that they both flew to specifically for that meeting. They sat there and discussed the disclosure idea, and eventually the General said, "It was the Cold War, and every single day we lived under the threat of nuclear war. Every single day we really believed that nuclear war could happen at any moment. And somewhere in those years we found a life form. And everything that we did and every decision that we made with that life form was because of the consciousness at that time." The General discussed how UFOs would interfere with American and Soviet nuclear weapons in an attempt to instigate a conflict between the Soviet Union and America, and that there are heroes in Russia who did not fire back when the UFOs manipulated radar systems to appear as if Americans had launched a first strike. After much discussion, the General then also agreed that Tom's disclosure idea could work. The General also stated that this was a great time for this to happen. I suspect that this is due to the fact that during this time period, U.S. Navy fighter pilots reported hundreds of UFOs off the East Coast. The approval of this high-level general would be a huge turning point for Tom and his efforts. This general would use his clout to go collect advisors for Tom to assist him in this disclosure mission. He got advisors that dealt with space, intelligence, biological warfare, and even with someone representing the President of the United States. Their goal was to help the youth understand that the UFO phenomena is real, but that the government is doing really good work regarding the issue, and that the government isn't covering it up due to malice towards citizens, but because it is an ongoing problem that they still don't fully understand. Tom's credibility regarding this whole timeline of events was highly doubted by many as he was collecting his advisors. Many people believed he had gone completely crazy due to the claims he was making about working with an aerospace executive, a general, and many other high-level officials in a coordinated effort to bring UFO disclosure. Many people had completely written Tom DeLonge off. However, during the 2016 US presidential election, Tom DeLonge's extreme claims would be corroborated.
Taking the weekend to prepare for the final debate this Wednesday, but as she stepped out of the spotlight, WikiLeaks released another batch of emails.
Good morning to you. The Clinton campaign calls this a crime reminiscent of Watergate, but worse. More than 1,900 emails.
WikiLeaks released thousands of emails from the DNC, appearing to show
new details now on that email hack at the DNC this morning.
Saw the release of these 20,000 emails from WikiLeaks from the DNC.
During the 2016 presidential election, WikiLeaks would publish thousands of emails from the Democratic National Committee, thought to be originally obtained by Russia. This dump caused quite a stir in the 2016 presidential election and the American political scene. Among the thousands of leaked emails emerged emails of Tom DeLonge discussing UFOs with John Podesta. John Podesta was Bill Clinton's chief of staff, Barack Obama's senior counselor, and Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, heavily tied to the President of the United States. Upon leaving the Obama staff to join the Hillary Clinton campaign, John Podesta tweeted that his biggest failure was not securing the release of the UFO files. The emails between Tom DeLonge and John Podesta showed that Tom was indeed in contact with high-level officials regarding UFOs and disclosure. The emails discussed Tom's UFO disclosure idea and also showed that a meeting took place between Tom, John Podesta, and the following three high-level officials. Robert F. Weiss, who is the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Aeronautics Advanced Development Programs for Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. This is whom I suspect was the original executive from Lockheed Martin with whom Tom initially spoke, and who connected Tom with the General. Major General Michael J. Carey, who was the Special Assistant to the Commander of Air Force Space Command at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado. Peterson Air Force Base is home to NORAD, the Space Command headquarters, and the United States Northern Command. And lastly, Major General Neil McCasland, who is the former head of the Foreign Technology Back Engineering Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. This is whom I suspect was the general that Tom met with at an airport and who collected Tom his advisors. Major General McCasland is responsible for managing the Air Force's $2.2 billion science and technology program. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, the base where General McCasland oversaw, has a long history with the UFO phenomena, being the place that the infamous Project Blue Book was based out of, and where all of the Project Blue Book files are located. Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is also the place where the Army officially reported they took the crashed UFO wreckage from Roswell, New Mexico, before redacting their story and claiming it was a new weather balloon.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
This leaked information provided much credibility to Tom's claims of working with government insiders towards UFO disclosure. These are not random government employees, but some of the highest-ranking government officials who of all people would have knowledge of UFOs. I recommend everyone reads these emails themselves. They can be found at wikileaks.org by searching DeLonge. Tom would take advice from his advisors, who instructed him on the UFO matters for his fiction and non-fiction book series, Secret Machines. The first fiction book, Secret Machines Chasing Shadows, was released on February 28, 2017, and the first non-fiction book, Secret Machines Gods, was released on March 7, 2017. During this time, Tom DeLonge began doing interviews on podcasts like Fade to Black, Coast to Coast, and The Linda Moulton Howe Show, discussing the UFO phenomena and his slow planned disclosure. Tom claims that in these interviews he said too much regarding the UFOs themselves, and his advisors told him to reel it in. From these interviews, we will get much of the information for part 2 of this video, which goes over the whole UFO overarching theory. Tom DeLonge created the company To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science to manage the UFO Disclosure Initiative, and on October 11, 2017, they held their launch press conference where we got to meet some of Tom DeLonge's other advisors who are willing to be publicly associated with this UFO disclosure mission. I recommend checking out my video on To the Stars Academy, where I go into greater detail about the resumes and credentials of all of the people on the main To the Stars team, but 5 of the heavy hitters are Chris Mellon, who was the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence from June 1998 to January 2002. Chris held this position during the Clinton administration, the Bush administration, and during 9/11. In addition, he's worked for many years on Capitol Hill as a minority staff director for Senator John D. Rockefeller IV of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. Jim Semivan, who retired as a senior intelligence officer for the Central Intelligence Agency, and who has claimed to have had an experience with the UFO phenomena in which an entity appeared in front of him and his wife. Steve Justice, who for 31 years was the program director for advanced systems from Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. I suspect Chris was one of the other executives from Lockheed Martin during Tom's second meeting with Robert F. Weiss, the executive vice president and general manager of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. Dr. Hal Puthoff, who ran the CIA remote viewing program called Project Stargate for over 20 years. Remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen target, purportedly using extrasensory perception or sensing with the mind, and the CIA attempted to use this to spy on American enemies. And lastly, Lou Elizondo, who ran the Pentagon program to research UFOs called the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. Lou ran this program for years and retired in protest to join the team at To the Stars Academy of Arts and Science and their disclosure mission. 2 weeks after the To the Stars press conference, Tom DeLonge went on the Joe Rogan Show to discuss stating that the Pentagon has officially revealed the existence of a UFO investigation program called the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program. This was a complete reversal of the U.S. government's official stance on UFOs held since the end of Project Blue Book in the 1960s, that UFOs do not exist and that the government no longer studies them. Lou Elizondo, who ran that program, helped to declassify 3 tapes of UFO encounters filmed by Navy pilots, the first time in history that the U.S. government has officially approved the release of UFO videos for public consumption. During this time, Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, and retired Navy fighter pilot Commander David Fravor, whose UFO encounter was one of the 3 videos released, all went on mainstream media to discuss UFOs and the revelation of the Pentagon UFO program. All 3 men claimed that UFOs were not human craft and that they defied the laws of physics.
Military pilots have seen at relatively close range objects, aircraft apparently doing things that aircraft we didn't think were able to do, and they've taken video of that. Is that true?
That's true, although that's only part of the evidence. What's so compelling about the evidence is we have our finest military personnel and our most sophisticated sensors all corroborating.
Commander David Fravor spent 18 years as a naval aviator, a pilot. In 2004, he had an unforgettable encounter with an aircraft he said was defying the laws of physics. So bottom line, what do you think this was?
I believe, as do the other folks that were on the flight, that when we visually saw it, that it was something not from this world.
When presumably you expressed that belief.
Out front now, the former Pentagon military official who ran the covert government program up until this last November, Luis Elizondo. Luis, thank you so much for your time tonight. I mean, first, tell us what the purpose of the program was and why it was so secretive.
Sure. The purpose of the program, Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, was really designed to do just that. From a national security perspective, identify those things that we see, whether we see them electro-optically, we see them with radar, we see them as eyewitness reports, through a myriad of different ways and avenues that we receive the information, and try to ascertain and determine if that information is a potential threat to national security, in a nutshell.
So what did you find?
Well, we found a lot. People
so do you
are talking,
think, I mean, I know, but do you believe, when you get that Navy pilot saying what he said, do you think that that was, a UFO? To obviously, I don't have any other word to use, or that, or something else?
Sure, that's a great question. Keeping in mind, it's not just the pilot's testimony on an observation. Sure, when someone comes to you who's in charge of a multi-million-dollar weapon platform, who maintains a top secret security clearance, who is paid and trusted by this country to go fight wars and to fly over cities with live munitions, and by the way, they're trained observers with millions of dollars invested in their training.
Yep.
I would submit to you it's pretty compelling, but on top of that, it's not just the eyewitness testimony. It is actual electro-optical data and radar returns. It's also people like radar operators and air traffic controllers. So I think the discussion should be maybe a little bit broader than that. I think people are focusing just on 2 videos coming from a set of F-18s when really it's a lot more than that.
So let me just ask you point blank the question. Do you believe that life from somewhere else, while you ran this program, came here, visited, observed?
I will tell you unequivocally that through the observation, scientific methodologies that were applied to look at this phenomena, that these aircraft, we'll call them aircraft, are displaying characteristics that are not currently within the U.S. inventory, nor in any foreign inventory that we are aware of.
So I know you're being clear, but I mean, the answer is yes.
I can't speak on behalf of the government. Obviously, I'm not in the U.S. government anymore. My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone, whatever that means.
This initial story immediately went viral, and UFOs became a topic of serious discussion in the US and in the world. The significance of the revelation of the Pentagon UFO program and the declassification of the UFO videos cannot be understated. This is a total reversal of all previously held positions by the US government towards UFOs. Tom DeLonge is currently producing a series on the History Channel called Unidentified: Inside America's UFO Investigation that aims to expose a series of UFO encounters collected by the Pentagon UFO program. This show contains personnel from foreign governments' UFO research departments and contains active-duty US military personnel, indicating that there is a high level of coordination going on towards this reported UFO disclosure. Tom DeLonge has accumulated a highly credible and diverse group of people who are all claiming that the UFO phenomena is real and needs to be addressed by society. This feat is unprecedented, and UFOs are being seriously covered in the mainstream media more than ever before, thanks to the efforts of Tom. As unlikely as it may seem, Tom DeLonge has helped put into motion something major. If this is a false flag, it will be one of the biggest in history, or if it really is UFO disclosure, it could completely change everything. We will just have to wait and see. Let me know if you think this is a false flag, a real UFO disclosure, or something in between. And in part 2, we will go over what Tom claims that the UFO phenomena is, all according to his advisors.